I work the night shift at Chipotle, and we have strange rules to follow. I used to think Chipotle was just another fast casual chain. Like everyone else, I loved their burritos. Massive, perfectly wrapped, and stuffed with a savory mix of rice, beans, spiced meats, and guacamole. There was something addictive about the smoky aroma of grilled chicken and the tangy bite of their fresh lime cilantro rice. Working there meant I could indulge in it every night, right? Well, not exactly. What I didn't realize was that this Chipotle wasn't like the others. Sure, the food was just as delicious as the Chipotle on Main Street or the one near the mall, if not more so. But there was something different about it. And it all came down to the rules. The rules weren't just odd suggestions, they were matters of survival. When I got hired, I thought I'd just be rolling burritos and cleaning tables. Instead, during orientation, the manager, Sarah, handed me a laminated list of rules. "I need you to memorize these," she said, her voice flat. I skimmed them, snorting at how ridiculous they sounded. Rule number 1, don't taste test the guacamole after midnight. Rule number 2, if a burrito falls apart while you're wrapping it, toss it. Don't rewrap it, even if the customer begs. Rule number 3, never let the queso sit out longer than 10 minutes. It doesn't expire, but trust me, you don't want to know what happens if it sits. Rule number 4, don't check the security cameras between 3:13 and 3:17 a.m. You'll see things you don't want to see. Rule number 5, if someone comes in and orders the special menu, go to the back room. Stay there until you hear the bell ring 3 times. Rule number 6, if you're working alone and you hear your name whispered over the headset, don't answer. Just take it off immediately. Rule number 7, when you leave, check the walk-in freezer. If the light's on, turn it off and leave without looking inside. If the door's open, don't go near it. Just run. Is this a joke? I asked, laughing nervously. Sarah didn't crack a smile. It's not a joke. These rules keep us safe. Follow them, and you'll be fine. She stood abruptly, leaving me alone with the list. Her parting words still ring in my ears. Chipotle is delicious. That's why they come here, but you don't want to meet them. The first thing I noticed during my shifts was how good the food smelled. Like, unnaturally good. Sure, all Chipotles have that signature smoky scent, but at this location, it was intoxicating. Even on days when I wasn't hungry, the aroma of freshly grilled steak or carnitas would make my stomach growl. I asked a coworker, Mark, why it smelled so much better here than at other locations. They use a special marinade, he said, avoiding eye contact. It's a secret recipe. He was lying. I could tell by the way his hands trembled as he wiped down the counter. One night, out of curiosity, I grabbed a piece of leftover barbacoa from the prep station after midnight. I figured Sarah's guacamole rule didn't apply to meat, right? The second it hit my tongue, my vision blurred. My head spun, and for a moment, I felt disconnected, like my body wasn't my own. I staggered to the sink and spat it out. When I looked back at the prep station, the barbacoa tray was gone. The rules, as bizarre as they were, started making sense the longer I worked there. For instance, one night around 2:30 a.m., a guy came in and ordered a burrito. Everything was fine until I tried to roll it. No matter what I did, the tortilla wouldn't seal. The fillings seemed to writhe, like they were alive, pushing their way out. I glanced at the guy, expecting him to laugh or say something like, "Take your time." But he just stood there, staring at me with unblinking eyes. Remembering rule number 2, I apologized, tossed the burrito in the trash, and started over. The second burrito wrapped perfectly. The guy nodded once and walked out without a word. The security cameras freaked me out from the beginning. They were ancient, with grainy footage that seemed to lag every few seconds. But one night, around 3:14 a.m., I caught something on the monitor that made my blood run cold. The dining area was empty, or so I thought. Then, a figure appeared. It was hunched, with limbs that looked too long for its body, moving between the tables. I froze, my eyes locked on the screen. The figure stopped, its head snapping toward the camera. It didn't have a face, just a dark, featureless void where its features should have been. My stomach dropped as I remembered rule number 4. I turned the monitor off and prayed it wasn't coming into the kitchen. The man in the black hat was the worst. He didn't come in every night, but when he did, the air in the room grew heavy. The other employees refused to even look at him. One time, I tried to offer him a drink cup, thinking maybe I could be polite and he'd leave. "Here you go," I said, holding out the cup. He didn't take it. Instead, he reached across the counter and gripped my wrist. His hand was ice cold, his nails sharp like claws. "You should leave," he whispered. I quit offering him cups after that. The walk-in freezer haunted me. Every night I checked it before leaving, praying the light would be off. One night I wasn't so lucky. The light was on and the door was cracked open. I stood frozen, my hand hovering over the switch. Then, a faint noise drifted out. A wet, squelching sound, like raw meat being torn apart. Against my better judgment, I pushed the door open just a little. Inside, the shelves were empty, but in the far corner, something moved. It was crouched low, its back to me, gnawing on something I couldn't see. The creature turned its head slowly, revealing a mouth full of jagged teeth and sunken, glowing eyes. I slammed the door and ran, not stopping until I was in my car with the engine running. I still don't know what's happening at this Chipotle. Is it haunted, cursed, or is it the food? Whatever's going on, the rules are the only thing keeping us alive. Sarah's words haunt me. Chipotle is delicious. That's why they come here. Who are they? Customers? Creatures? Something worse? I've learned not to ask too many questions. I follow the rules, keep my head down, and try not to think about what's in the marinade. But if you ever find yourself working the night shift at Chipotle, take my advice. Don't break the rules, and never, ever look in the freezer.